It's so good to see you. I mean, thank you for having us on board Medallia this afternoon. I mean, you've just got back from, I suppose just a couple of weeks ago from this almighty challenge that you had, having, I suppose, been just the 8th woman in history to complete the Vendée Globe. So, how does it feel? How does it feel to be back on dry land?
It's, do you know what? You get back to normal rather too quickly for my liking. And I guess I went through a stage of sort of not really knowing what I was supposed to be doing because I've been so focused. And then reality bites you quite quickly. So actually today is kind of me just stepping back in time and getting that feeling back again. It's nice to be back on the water.
So having achieved what you've achieved now, I mean, it was something quite extraordinary, really. What would you say? What was the biggest high during the Globe? What was the thing that really sticks out?
So I think, I mean, there was so much, and I loved it. Every single day, I was happy to be there, and I just wanted to make the most of the opportunity that I had. But I think the thing that I really enjoyed was just being able to push the boat hard. And the first time I got a 400+ mile day was just, I couldn't believe I'd done it. It was incredible. And then I was top of the leaderboard for a 24-hour run. And then I did a 3-hour run with an average of 19 knots. And actually, I like going fast. It's good.
I mean, the race wasn't without drama. We obviously saw a number of boats having to pull out, and then of course there was the dramatic rescue as well. Were you affected by that at all?
You're aware of what's happening around the fleet, but probably not as connected as the folks on land who are watching, because obviously we have limited access to the internet. And every time that somebody had a problem or we saw someone retire, then you feel it for them, because you can imagine how that is for you, and how much effort and energy everybody else has put into the race. So it's sad when they have to retire. And with Kevin Escoffier and the rescue, we were all concerned, all of us, and we were, but then also I think I had a huge confidence that he would be rescued, because he'd done so much training, he'd got the right safety kit on the boat, but also there were so many other competitors close to him who would come and rescue him. In particular, Jean Le Cam, who is this incredible seaman. He's amazing, and so I was worried for him, but always confident that he would be rescued.
I mean, you had some of your own challenges as well. What would you say stuck out as the biggest challenge you faced?
Well, I mean, it was definitely changing the rudder in the Southern Ocean. That was the kind of thing where, if you'd have asked me about it beforehand and said, does that happen to you? Do you think you can deal with it? Do you think you can cope with it? I would have said, I'm not sure. But actually, I discovered in the moment that when something is so binary, there's no other option. You have to sort this out. And when you're pushed into a corner like that, then you can really exceed whatever you thought you were capable of.
Wow. You mentioned the Southern Ocean. I mean, there must be some amazing dramatic scenery that you saw. What's your favorite place that you sailed along?
Well, I mean, the only land that I saw was Cape Horn and Staten Island, which is just after Cape Horn. And I mean, if you're ever going to make a landfall, that's one heck of a place to make it. It's incredible. I mean, Cape Horn itself, the shape of it I've seen so many times because it's iconic for all sailors. And then afterwards, Staten Island is beautiful. It's these snow-capped mountains, really rugged. So it's quite breathtaking, and I'd love to go back there and explore it when I'm not racing.
I mean, you're naturally now going to be this, a real inspiration to people wanting to get into sailing. How long have you been sailing for? Has it always been on the same size boats? And what are the challenges for people, that they want to get into sailing now?
I've been sailing since I was very small. My family, so my grandfather had a folk boat, which is a 24-foot wooden boat, which my parents inherited. And we used to go on, spend our weekends just kind of bimbling around on boats on the East Coast. So I was quite lucky that I got an introduction to it that way. And I developed a love for it in my teens when I went on a sailing holiday. And then I decided when I left school that was what I wanted to do. So I came down to the South Coast, and I got an apprenticeship with a sailing school and become a sailing instructor. And since then, I've pretty much done every job you can possibly imagine on the water. I always wanted to do this. This was my ambition. It's just taken me a really long time to get here. And I think, for most people, especially somebody like me, I came from a landlocked county. It is the most difficult thing about getting into sailing is originally finding the opportunity to get out in a boat. And I would say, for anybody who would like to have a go, then there are some incredible sailing holidays, expeditions, sailing courses. And sailing is an incredibly diverse sport. It suits every single person out there, regardless of your physical ability, your age, your gender. There is a type of sailing for you.
We were transfixed watching the tracker every day and watching Medallia going around. And it's been a pleasure for us being a part of the business syndicate. So it really felt like we were kind of globe-trotting with you. I know that Phil's got loads of questions about and kind of wanting to delve into the kit that you've got on board. So I'll hand over to Phil.
I think it must be strange when you got on dry land and then everything was steady for a while. What was that like?
Yeah, you need to be careful of going into small spaces because you tend to fall over when you go into small spaces.
I remember seeing you had problems with your wind instruments. How did you manage to overcome that in the end?
Yes, my wind instruments problems were they actually, I think they were ongoing for about 4 weeks, and the biggest issue was I was getting intermittent wind data. So sometimes it would be there, sometimes it wouldn't, which meant that I couldn't allow the autopilot to drive on wind function, which really decreases your performance, but it also makes you really tired because you have to be much more vigilant. And I looked up the mast a couple of times with the binoculars and realized that one of the cups on the anemometer was missing. And I had a spare wind wand, which actually wasn't working. I think the PCB card in the wand had gone. So I took the cups off the spare wand and I climbed the rig and I changed the cups over. And basically what was happening was with 2 cups on, then it could become stable and it wouldn't rotate. And then the mast would jolt and it'd start going again and then it would be stable. But as soon as I put 3 cups on, it worked.
That I just can't imagine the whole thing about just leaving the boat on autopilot at like 20 knots and then going to sleep.
It is really difficult to do it initially. There's a huge amount of adrenaline when you're going that fast, and it's noisy, and your mind is always thinking about the things that could go wrong. But actually, a lot of the preparation I spent with the boat was ensuring that my kit was reliable and making sure I had the right kit on board. And I had a phenomenal autopilot. I had a radar that was constantly on while I was asleep. So, you know, I would be aware of anything that came into my pathway. I had alarms to let me know if the wind strength was going up. So it's really important that you pick the right kit for the boat, and B, you then have faith in the kit and you trust it.
Yeah, cool. Wow. Still pretty brave, but I guess you get to the point even then where anybody would just pass out with tiredness.
Yeah, it's true. If you're tired enough, you can sleep anywhere at any speed.
Yeah, I remember watching some of your footage that you took of the boat actually going through some of the seas there, and it did look really, really quite full on. It looked like a speedboat, not a sailing boat.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's the most incredible feeling. I love it. I'm definitely a speed junkie, without a doubt.
Do you have any ambitions to try some of these crazy boats then? You know, what would you do next time? Would you stick foils on have a foiling sailing boat and really go for no limits kind of thing?
I'm really hoping to do 2024 in a foiling boat for sure. I don't think I want to go as extreme as the 2020 generation boats where they're indoors all the time, because I like, you know, I'm a feely kind of sailor. I like to feel connected with the outside. But my ideal boat would be a 2016 generation foiling boat like the one that won. I think that would be an incredible boat to have.
What's it like following in the footsteps of Dame Ellen then?
Oh, I mean, the whole thing is incredible. And you know, I've always loved the fact that men and women compete on equal terms in this sport. When you're out on the water, nobody questions who you are. You just, you know, your results speak for themselves. Yeah. But then when you step off, and I've become only the 8th woman in history to finish this race, you know, it's kind of a big thing. So,
that's kind of interesting. What actually sort of what drives people to do the Vendée Globe? Not just you specifically, but everybody, because, you know, clearly there can only be one winner, and it's not so much about the winning, is it? It's more about just the doing of it.
I think there's a bit of both, really. You know, for me, it was something that I very much wanted to complete because, you know, before we started, only 96 people in the whole world had ever finished the race, and that's because it's, you know, phenomenally hard. But also, it was always a competition for me too. It was always, you know, I was always trying to gain one place in the rankings or hold my position or see if I could go a bit faster. So it's a combination of the both. But I mean, in the world of solo ocean racing, you just cannot get tougher than single-handed non-stop around the world in a 60-foot boat. And I think, you know, for anybody who has made this their chosen sport, then it's the same as going to the Olympics. It is that equivalent. So I guess that's what drives everybody. It's just to get there is a total privilege, and then the competition is extra on top.
We should really talk a little bit about the electronics, since we are an marine electronics manufacturer. But I was kind of interested in how our devices that we gave you to put on there, how they worked, and how the whole electronic system, the whole package you had on the boat worked in general. And what were your thoughts?
So, I mean, I think one of the massive successes for my race, and one of the reasons for the good performance that I was able to do in an old boat, was because we really thought hard about upgrading the electronics packages on board, and we made sure that we were going for, you know, stuff that I could really rely on, but would also help the boat and me perform. And what we used the Actisense NGW1 gateways, because my main electronics package was from NKE, so that's my autopilot and my wind instruments and all the environmental data. So that's using NMEA 0183. and I wanted to upgrade to the Ray Marine radar, the Doppler radar, because that's really easy to use. The interface for it is easy to set alarms and that sort of thing, and that's on NMEA 2000. And so I needed a couple of gateways so that I could transfer both my AIS data and my environmental data from the NKE into the Ray Marine. And actually you can see it there now. So that's the radar on, and I've got my depth there. And that meant that I kind of had a one-stop shop really for when I was sleeping. I could set my AIS alarm, I could set a radar alarm, I could also set wind alarms through the Ray Marine in one place. And then that just gave me the confidence to go to sleep. And if anything changed, then I would have an audible alarm that woke me up.
Great. Well, that's good. I guess you didn't get too many AIS alarms in the Southern Ocean, though.
No, but I tell you what, when you do get one, you jump out of your skin.
Yeah, I mean, we came on board with you, it seems like a long time ago now. Actisense just getting together with a local business syndicate just to give you the first step, the little step before you got the big step. When was that, 2019 now?
Yeah, I think it would have been May 2019.
That's
and
right.
I think that's what is, this whole journey has been so much. It's never just been about me. And the incredible thing for me is that so many people invested in me early on when the campaign was tiny, when I just had a boat and I was, really pushing just to try and get my entry. And it was only because of the early investment that people like you at Actisense made that I ended up in a position that Medallia could come in and take title sponsorship. And so, I really feel that the success in the race belongs to a huge number of people. It's never just been about me, and I will always be grateful for your faith and trust in me, always.
You definitely chose the right year to be socially distant from people.
I actually think, I think that we benefited, our sports benefited from the lockdown because, it's a minority sport. It's really, really hard to get mainstream media coverage. And the fact that more people could relate to what we were doing because they understood that, being on your own for a long amount of time, I think it was more relatable, the human element, but also there was less sport in the media. So we managed to get a slice of that action. And
Yeah.
I really hope that going forward, it has made a bit of a dent, more people are interested in the sport. I hope that it's helped. My goal is to do as much sailing as I possibly can, both in my newer Mocha, if I get one, but also in other classes. In the short term, my goals for this year were to do the 3 Pix yacht race again, so that's running and sailing. But that is in June, and it's kind of dependent on me getting fit enough to run 3 back-to-back marathons by June, having not used my legs for 3 months. Everyone's hoping that with the lifting of restrictions in June, there's going to be a lot of inshore racing happening this year. Everyone's missed it. I take every opportunity I can to go sailing, whether it's Thursday night racing in Poole Bay or at the Fastnet. All sailing, it's all good.
Listen, Pip, you've been amazing. It's been we've been transfixed, as I say, watching the tracker every day. Kind of miss it now a little bit, and really looking forward just to seeing what the future brings.